So then the other big project that we're working on at Wikia is the search engine. So to give you a little background here, the search engine project is, for me, it's almost as much a political statement as anything else, and political in the small p sense. Right now we're in a situation where we have a handful of companies who are really dominating the flow of traffic on the internet. We've got Google, Yahoo, Ask, a couple of others, what they're doing is all proprietary software. It's all closed. It's all secretive. We really have very little idea what's ranked and why. And I think a lot of people have been conditioned over the past several years to think of the outcome of the search results at Google as being, it's all about the algorithm. It's just some mathematical formula. It isn't really editorial judgment, but it is editorial judgment. When Google tells you that these are the 10 most important things that have to do with Thomas Jefferson, they are making an editorial judgment and passing along to you, and we have no idea how they're doing that. And we have no control. We have no public accountability there. So what I'm working on is building a completely open source, completely free software search engine. All the algorithms to be published. At every point within the search process where we see that there's an editorial decision that needs to be made, tweaking an algorithm, rating a website, blacklisting some spam, all those kinds of things, all those editorial decisions that get made, we want to push those out into our community. It's a really tricky thing to think about how do you construct a community, how do you construct social norms that allow for good behavior and penalize bad behavior, but you wouldn't think people could write an encyclopedia in an open fashion either, and they are. So I think we have some good ideas about how to do that. Well, this has gotten a huge amount of press attention. This is a magazine cover that shows me. I'm apparently Google's worst nightmare. I don't know if that's true, but my mom bought 10 copies, so I suppose it's all right. And I've got a couple of screenshots here. This is might look a little bit familiar to you if you're a Facebook user. This is part of the social network behind it. We're going to have a social network where people can assign trust to each other, and they can link to each other so that we can have a mechanism to identify and eliminate spammers. How many of you get spam in your email? And how many of you get spam on Facebook? So, oh, this guy. Interesting. Well, still a little better, right? Very little spam in these social networks if they're constructed well. And I believe that we can harness some of the ideas that have been innovated in the last 3 or 4 years of social networking to create webs of trust so that we can eliminate the problem of spammers within the search engine context. It's got all the usual sort of junk like pictures and stuff. One of the things that we're really focused on is for every element of what we're doing, we'll have privacy settings that we'll set the defaults to be very private. We think that's a very important thing. So this is something I've been working on for a while. Actually, these are some pictures from Friday. Friday we were physically loading 1,000 servers from one data center to another. That we got acquired these servers to actually run the back-end infrastructure. So we're actually getting very close to launching, and I actually personally went and helped lift and load servers because I really wanted to get my hands dirty, and they actually did get very dirty. So I'm very excited about the prospects there. So finally, what I want to talk about is some of the social philosophy, some of the ideas that I think are really important for understanding why something like Wikipedia is possible, why is something like the Muppet Wiki possible without simply destroying itself in an endless flame war, endless arguments and debates. And what I really want you to think about is to think about that you have been assigned the task of designing a restaurant. So you're going to design a restaurant, you're given a completely clean slate, a blank piece of paper, you can do anything you want, you're going to design the restaurant, and so you think to yourself, well gee, in this restaurant that I'm going to design, we're going to be serving steak. So we've made that decision, we're going to serve steak to the customers, and anytime you've got customers with steak, they're going to have access to knives. And the one thing we know about customers with knives is that they might stab people. And so for safety, for our design considerations, we'd better keep all the customers in a cage. We'll put, wire fences or cages around each table so people can't stab each other. We'll all be completely safe. Well, this makes a bad society. This is not how we design restaurants. This is not the kind of society we like to live in. We like to live in open societies where, by and large, you trust the people around you. Now, this doesn't always work. Sometimes people do stab each other in restaurants, and so we need mechanisms for dealing with that. We need to have ambulances and hospitals. We need to have police to come and lock up the bad people. What I think about here is that when we think about the design of social spaces online, the design of spaces for people to interact, we need to think about this restaurant analogy, and we need to think about things like, what kind of society do we want to live in? How do we design mechanisms that are not on either extreme of a police state where everything is under absolute firm control and you can't do anything without getting permission first, which is, by the way, the most common mistake in content management systems, versus the alternative, which is complete anarchy and no accountability whatsoever. And so the real wiki philosophy is to say, look, we want to give people the maximum freedom to do good. We want them to be able to come in and do good, to be able to help. And that if they do harm, we have quick, easy ways of calling the police, blocking them, and reverting their changes. And that's the way the entire wiki software is designed. So that's the end of my prepared remarks, and I guess we're going to do questions now.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.